Our story begins in a world of vast, isolated continents. 100 years ago, an age of exploration began, but with new technology came new weapons, and the world was forever changed. Now we meet Li Xianyu, an ordinary college student. His friend asks why he's heading out so early. He explains it's his birthday tomorrow and his dad's planning a party. He's also busy turning down an offer from an older woman, leaving his friend to wallow in single-guy misery. Li Xianyu heads home to his family's apartment. He's greeted by a friendly neighbor, Grandpa Qin. The two share a bit of lighthearted banter. He steps inside announcing his arrival, but he notices his sister isn't home for his birthday. He flops onto the couch, asking about her travels. His father brings him dinner, explaining she's far away. Our boy just seems happy to be home. His dad serves the meal, asking about his plans. But there's a strange weight to his father's words. He's told that everything will be revealed tomorrow. The next day arrives, his 20th birthday. He and his father sit together, waiting. His dad seems unusually tense, constantly checking the time. A knock at the door. Finally, some birthday action. But it's a stern-looking man in a business suit. His father then calls him into the study as well. The three of them sit in a heavy, uncomfortable silence. The air's thick with unspoken words. His father finally breaks the silence. He looks at his son with a difficult truth to share. The words hang in the air. I'm not your real father. Li Xianyu's world is struck by lightning. The man explains he was a brother to his real father, who died long ago, and the lawyer was entrusted with a final gift for him. He's handed a sealed envelope, his mind still reeling. The two men leave, giving him a moment alone. His thoughts race. An inheritance? A new family? And his sister isn't his sister? He pushes it all aside to see what was left for him. Inside is a house, $1 million in cash, and a strange black bead. But his eyes are drawn to the mysterious orb. He hopes the letter holds some answers. It's from his birth father, a story of love and loss. A final instruction: eat the family heirloom to get a snail fairy. He stares at the polished black sphere. It definitely doesn't look like a birthday snack, but on pure instinct he swallows it whole. He immediately regrets his life choices. He tries desperately to cough it back up, but a strange energy begins to surge through him. A sharp pain erupts from his stomach, which begins to swell at an alarming rate. He collapses, wondering what fresh hell this is. This is officially the worst birthday party ever. A brilliant light bursts forth from his body, and from it, a graceful figure begins to form. The light grows brighter and brighter. A woman emerges, stretching after a 20-year nap. She looks down and asks if he is his father's son. Li Xianyu can only wonder if his dad left him a companion. She introduces herself as the Grand Matriarch. The delivery is complete. The lawyer reports the mission is complete, unaware of a curious neighbor. Li Xianyu is completely overwhelmed by this new reality. He takes in his new home, a gift from a father he never knew. He thinks back to the man who raised him, and realizes the news hasn't hit him as hard as he expected. His new roommate makes herself at home. An argument immediately breaks out over her choice of attire. He struggles to reconcile her youthful appearance with her ancient title. She explains their family connection, but he's stuck on the age difference. Her explanation is simple. She died at 18, which is apparently a very surprising thing to hear over a glass of water. She tries to comfort him, understanding his confusion. Then she gets serious, telling him his world is about to expand. He is no ordinary person, but the heir to the ancient demon bloodline. And she is the peerless battle soul, a powerful warrior spirit bound to his family. She tells him his own power will awaken when they are in sync. Li Xianyu understandably has a few follow-up questions, but she seems more concerned with modern refreshments. She starts listing off brands that have been gone for decades. The ancient warrior soul throws a tantrum because her favorite snacks are discontinued. So Li Xianyu heads out to the store. He returns with supplies to find her on the balcony. She reflects on the passage of time, a world constantly changing around her. While she remains untouched by the years, Li Xianyu watches her, a hint of sorrow in his eyes. The somber moment is broken by a thread about snack quality. He presents his offerings to the ancient spirit, and thankfully, the modern world's junk food does not disappoint. With her mouth full, she begins a history lesson. Before humanity, the world was ruled by ancient demons. But even their immense power faded with time, though their bloodline lives on in a select few. The lecture continues over a meal at a local ramen shop. The Grand Matriarch enjoys her first real food in decades. Li Xianyu laments his own diet of instant noodles. The two share a meal, watched by a hopeful stray. A very, very hopeful stray. She offers the dog a piece of her food, but the shopkeeper angrily shoos the animal away. Her friendly demeanor vanishes in an instant. Li Xianyu notices her sudden change in mood. She tells him there's a ghost behind the man. He turns to look, seeing nothing but the kitchen. He accuses her of making it up. She offers to open his eyes to the truth. For a small price, of course. He agrees, cheekily asking if the ghost is a looker. She reminds him she's a battle soul, not a common spirit. She then blows a strange energy toward him. Li Shenyu waits, feeling absolutely nothing, until a sharp jolt runs through his entire body. His eyes widen in disbelief and sudden pain. He feels as if a part of him has been torn away. The Grand Matriarch completes her technique. Looking quite satisfied with herself, a tiny piece of his soul floats out, much to his horror. She gives him a quick tap on the forehead and simply tells him to look again. His eyes tear up in utter shock. He now sees a ghostly figure clinging to the shopkeeper. The man complains of a sudden chill, unaware of his spectral passenger. Li Shanyu can't believe what he's seeing. The spirit's face twists into a horrifying visage. The Grand Matriarch calmly warns him not to look, or the ghost will latch onto him next. Terrified, Li Xianyu urges them to leave immediately, but a sharp pain suddenly shoots through his lower back. She reminds him that opening his eyes would cost him some energy. She then launches into a surprisingly detailed anatomy lesson about kidneys. She confirms her diagnosis while continuing to snack. She explains that her power is drawn directly from her host. As he collapses to the floor, she continues her lecture. With his current weakness, she can't even use a fraction of her true power. Li Xianyu is left completely stunned and drained. He wonders if this is his new normal, questioning his father's final gift. A caption helpfully points out the young man who looks extremely drained of vitality. As they leave, he reflects on how this new world came at the cost of his life force. She tells him she's temporarily sealed his spirit eyes for his own safety. She explains it was a secret family technique that used his energy to work. He decides that despite the danger, his ancient companion is actually quite reliable, but his quiet reflection is shattered by her excited shouting. She's completely mesmerized by the sheer number of cars on the road. Li Shenyu dryly points out that cars aren't exactly a new invention. She's also scandalized by modern fashion and amazed by the height of the city's buildings. All while Li Shenyu struggles to keep up, his back still aching. Her tour of the modern world is interrupted by the sight of a delicious treat. He reluctantly takes her to a nearby convenience store. He watches her enjoy it, a little tired but also a little amused. He finally asks the question that's been on his mind. What kind of person was the father he never knew? She gives a vague answer that only raises more questions. She explains he was the most promising of her descendants, but his fate was tragic. If he had lived, he might have been strong enough to free her from her bonds. Li Shenyu is impressed, as she confirms his father was a rare talent. But he can't help connecting breaking shackles with draining his life force. He presses for details, but she deflects, saying it's time to go. She pats the counter, ready to head home, but not before demanding he buy out the entire snack aisle. An ancient spirit's gotta eat, and so Li Xianyu is reduced to a pack mule for his great-grandma. He trudges home, his back still aching from his earlier donation. As he finally reaches their building, he spots something strange. The Grand Matriarch is talking with an older man. He recognizes his neighbor, Grandpa Chin, who appears to be hitting on her. The old man is showing her a game on his phone. He then invites her to his apartment with a less-than-innocent smile. Li Xianyu immediately intervenes, claiming she's his girlfriend. Grandpa Chin seems surprised but also impressed. Li Xianyu angrily tells him to back off and stay away. He warns her that the old man is a neighborhood creep. She scoffs, reminding him that she's seen a century of human nature. Back inside their apartment, he unlocks the door. With the drama over, he asks how he can awaken his own power. The Grand Matriarch pauses, her snack forgotten. She sits down, announcing it's time to teach him Qi cultivation. Li Xianyu is overjoyed, his mind filled with dreams of superpowers. But her first question is about the phone game Grandpa Chin showed her. Priorities. He hands over his old phone, which she accepts on the condition he buys her a new one. With that settled, she begins her lesson on the nature of Qi. She explains that Qi is a special energy, cultivated within the body's own cells. When mastered, it can unlock incredible abilities, granting power over the elements themselves. She clarifies this is a separate power system, one that even ordinary people can theoretically learn. But for him, it's the key to awakening his true potential. She announces it's time to open his celestial gates. This process will activate his cells and unlock his bloodline. With a simple touch, the lesson begins. He's instructed to breathe in spiritual energy, and he immediately starts feeling something. His ancient mentor, meanwhile, is enjoying a snack. Priorities. He panics, thinking something has gone terribly wrong. She drops her snack, realizing his distress. He tries to explain the strange feeling taking over. and then promptly coughs up a mouthful of blood. The next thing he knows, he's in a hospital bed. She's baffled, insisting the technique was flawless. A doctor enters the room with a friendly smile. But Li Xianyu is shocked by who's with him. It's his neighbor, Grandpa Qin, the local creep. He explains how she ran to him in a panic for help. Li Xianyu realizes the old man isn't so bad after all. Grandpa Qin asks the doctor for the diagnosis. The official medical reason? Smog poisoning. An answer that leaves everyone completely bewildered. Li Xianyu insists there must be a bigger problem, but the doctor confirms the symptoms match perfectly. The ancient spirit, however, has never even heard of smog. Li Xianyu connects the dots. He must have absorbed smog along with the spiritual energy. He despairs at the difficulty of cultivating in the polluted modern era. She tells him qi cultivation is the only way to awaken his bloodline and heal his kidneys, but she quickly dashes his hopes with a flick to the forehead. Cultivation won't stop the drain. It will only help him recover faster. She explains that her power needs are far greater than what he can provide, cursing all her descendants with a vitality drain. Li Xianyu is horrified by this revelation. How's that for a family heirloom? A week passes with our boy stuck at home, officially suffering from smog poisoning. But he knows the truth. The real culprit is the vitality drain. He's now forced to rely on special medicine just to get by. He feels his youth slipping away before it's even begun. A call from his friend interrupts his misery, asking why he's skipping class. Li Xianyu makes a vague excuse about being sick, promising to return tomorrow. The next day, he finally makes it back to school. But his friend immediately greets him with some shocking news. A student, Zhang Mingyu, has died. His body was found behind the library, completely drained of blood. Stranger still, his expression was peaceful, as if he were only sleeping. The official cause was sudden death, but his friend jokes about the playboy's lifestyle. The police have no leads, as the victim had many partners. Li Xianyu remembers what the Grand Matriarch said about spirits lingering for 7 days. An idea forms. Maybe he can see the dead student's soul. Later, he stands outside the library where the body was found. He looks left and right, but sees nothing supernatural. He tries to concentrate, attempting to reboot his spiritual sight. His eyes narrow, focusing his power. He scans the benches, the vending machines, and the trees. His friend asks why he's blinking like a maniac. He wonders why he can't see anything, as his friend suggests they leave. He tells his friend to go on ahead, making an excuse to slip away. He calls the Grand Matriarch for some much-needed tech support. She scoffs at the idea of her powers being a cheap, disposable product. She asks for the details of the death. She figures the spirit is probably harmless, likely lingering near the girls' dorms. But she warns him to stay away, as he's completely defenseless. And then, with the life-or-death lecture over, she asks for yogurt. Li Xianyu hangs up, annoyed that he got no answers and a new shopping list. Suddenly, a strange chill runs down his spine. He feels the temperature in the room plummet. He hears a strange gurgling sound from the toilet behind him. His spiritual sight kicks in, revealing something truly horrifying. A ghostly figure rises from the water. His scream echoes through the dorm room. His friend rushes over, wondering what's wrong. He finds Li Xianyu staring into the empty toilet bowl in terror. He tries to play it cool, insisting that nothing is wrong. But the spectral visitor gets uncomfortably close. It seems to be trying to tell him something. And despite the terror, a part of him is thrilled by this new ability. He realizes he might be able to solve the murder. He calms himself and tries to communicate with the spirit, but it seems to lack any real intelligence, only repeating its warning. Frustrated, he decides to leave. But then the ghost says a name, Shu Wei. He whips around, demanding to know what it means. But the spirit can only repeat its desperate plea. A sudden realization hits him. He sprints to the girls' dormitory, shouting her name. A student tells him that Shu Wei has already left. The student mistakes his urgency for romantic interest. He quickly clarifies they're just childhood friends, but his mind races, connecting the ghost's warning to Shu Wei's sudden absence from school. He wonders if she was the one with the playboy that night. He decides he has to find her and get some answers. He heads straight to her off-campus apartment. He rings the bell and a voice answers from inside. After a brief exchange, she agrees to let him in. The door cracks open, revealing Shu Wei dressed for a casual Tuesday interrogation. He immediately asks why she skipped class. She gives a weak excuse, but he's not buying it. His directness catches her completely off guard. She asks him what he's implying. He cuts straight to the point, asking if she was with Zhang Mingyu the night that he died. She immediately denies everything, claiming ignorance. So Li Xianyu calls her bluff, threatening to go to the police. That gets a reaction and she begs him to stop. Finally, the truth starts to come out. She confesses she took out a predatory online loan and was being blackmailed with compromising photos. Jiang Mingyu had offered to pay off her debt in exchange for her company, but he died suddenly that night. But her story doesn't quite add up with the ghost's warning. She begs him not to involve the police, fearing her secret will be exposed. Li Xianyu sighs, asking how much she owes. The debt has ballooned to a staggering $500,000. He considers the amount, remembering his own recent inheritance. Her eyes light up, asking if he's truly willing to help her. She then offers to compensate him in other ways. She gets uncomfortably close, making a very suggestive offer, an offer that leaves Li Xianyu completely stunned. He immediately slaps her hand away. He's shocked, asking what's happened to his childhood friend. She plays the victim, claiming she has no other choice. Li Xianyu makes a hasty retreat to the bathroom to think things over. He slams the door, needing a moment to process. He remembers the $1,000,000 his father left him. He thinks about his long friendship with Xu Wei and decides he can't just stand by and watch her fall. He looks up into the bathroom mirror, and his blood runs cold at the sight of a reflection. His eyes widen in absolute terror. A ghostly, upside-down face stares back at him. Its features are twisted in a silent, horrifying scream. He finally recognizes the face. It's Xu Wei. He realizes his friend has already become a ghost, which begs the terrifying question, who is in the living room? He tries to calm his racing heart as she calls to him from outside. His mind flashes back to their childhood. He remembers the kind, innocent girl he grew up with. The real Xu Wei would never act this way. This is not the friend he's known his whole life. It all clicks into place. Jiang Mingyu's warning was for him. The woman outside calls his name again. He opens the door, playing it cool and blaming his noise on a slip. He agrees to help her, but warns her to stay away from such dangerous loans. He then turns to leave, opening the door to make his escape. He keeps his back to her, his hand on the doorknob. He tells her to wait here while he goes home for the money. But she's not letting him go that easily. She closes the distance, asking why he's in such a rush to leave. Her advances become far more direct and unsettling. She wonders aloud why he's getting goosebumps. Yeah, I wonder why. He stammers out a weak excuse about sensitive earlobes. She takes that as an invitation, suggesting they move to the bedroom. Li Xianyu makes another desperate attempt to open the door. He finally breaks free, stumbling out into the hallway. The friendly mask drops, replaced by pure, cold fury. She lunges forward, grabbing him from behind, and slams the door shut, trapping him inside with her. Her voice is low and menacing, impressed that he figured it out. The charade is over, and the creature reveals its true nature. Li Xianyu stares back, his terror now mixed with defiance. She mocks him, noting how her charms had no effect. He demands to know what she did to the real Xu Wei. Her hair begins to shift, the purple fading to a brilliant white. A pair of fluffy white ears sprouts from her head. She promises to send him to see his friend very soon. Her true form is revealed. A fox spirit shocked that he knows about ancient demons. She grabs him by the collar, demanding answers. Suddenly, a new voice echoes through the room, telling her to bring him inside. Li Xianyu's blood runs cold. There's a third person here. The fox spirit drags him deeper into the apartment. She throws him to the floor like a sack of potatoes. A man's foot pins him down, noting he's not an awakened descendant. And Li Xianyu looks up to see a long-haired man lounging on the couch. The man stares down at him, asking how a mere human knows their secret. Li Xianyu quickly thinks of an answer, claiming his great-grandmother told him. The man presses him, asking which family or faction he belongs to. Li Xianyu plays dumb, saying he doesn't know, an answer that clearly isn't satisfying the man. He explains it was an inheritance from a father he never knew. The two demons are completely baffled by his nonsensical answers. The leader changes tactics, asking what he was doing here. Li Xianyu explains he was investigating Jiang Mingyu's death. The fox spirit confirms she was the killer, asking what to do with the kid. The man decides they need to leave town, mentioning a group called Baoze. She suggests turning themselves in, tired of life as fugitives. But he reminds her they'd lose decades of cultivation as punishment. He then turns his attention back to Li Xianyu, ordering her to harvest him. And we get a helpful, if slightly disturbing, mini-lesson. The Grand Matriarch explains it's a way to transfer life essence through intimate acts. She confirms this is how the student died, though it's usually not fatal, because a person's life force can recover over time. And with that, our wholesome educational segment is over. Back in the apartment, the situation has escalated quickly. Li Xianyu screams in protest, questioning their lack of shame. But the fox spirit finds him completely unresponsive to her charms. And for the first time, our boy is thankful for his weak kidneys. The leader, unimpressed, orders her to give him a vitality pill. She forces a small black pill into his mouth, but even that seems to have no effect. So naturally, the next step is a whole handful. In a panic, Li Xianyu starts bluffing about his powerful grandma. The fox spirit scoffs, pointing out he's just an unawakened nobody. He insists she's stronger than anyone in Baoze. The man calls his bluff, asking for a name, which Li Xianyu completely forgot to ask for. Cornered, Li Xianyu drops a name he hopes will save him: War Soul. The two demons are frozen in absolute shock. The leader can barely believe what he's just heard. The name Peerless War Soul conjures an image of pure, unstoppable terror. He demands to know Li Xianyu's family name. The realization hits him, an ordinary human from the Li family. The fox spirit begins to cry, terrified of what's to come. The man explains that no one has ever escaped that entity's wrath. In a fit of despair, the fox spirit decides to take Li Xianyu with her. He panics, trying to talk her down from her last-ditch effort. She lunges forward to strike the final blow, but a flash of light suddenly fills the room, and both demons are instantly bound by a strange energy. A new figure descends, crackling with power. It's his neighbor, Grandpa Chin, looking a lot less creepy and a lot more competent. He calmly pulls out his phone and proceeds to take pictures of the highly compromising situation. So much for a heroic rescue. Li Xianyu is left completely speechless and mortified. Grandpa Chin snaps him out of it, calling him an idiot. He mocks him, saying his gamer grandma wasn't coming to save him. Li Xianyu can't accept this sudden, jarring change in his neighbor's character. Later, with the demons apprehended, he finally asks what happened to Shu Wei. Grandpa Chin gives him the grim news. She's been dead for a while. The truth hits Li Xianyu like a physical blow. As a body is loaded into a van, the old man explains that these creatures have no regard for human life. A single tear rolls down his cheek. He then sees her spirit waving a final goodbye. She gives him one last peaceful smile before fading away. He cries out her name, his heart breaking. Grandpa Chin tells him the dead can't return, asking if he's okay. Li Xianyu tries to insist he's fine, but the tears tell a different story. But Grandpa Chin clarifies he's not talking about his feelings. He's talking about the side effects of that vitality pill. He notes that the drug's effects are seriously potent. And Li Xianyu laments his new life's constant attacks on his manhood. Later, he finally asks how the old man knew where to find him. The answer is simple. He's been under surveillance his entire life. Li Xianyu is stunned, as Grandpa Chin explains it all goes back to his father. After a certain incident, the Blood Descendant Alliance tried to kill him, and failed spectacularly. His father was apparently the most dangerous descendant in the nation's history. Li Xianyu is amazed, but still wants to know what caused it all. A secret known only to the leaders of the two biggest factions. Which makes him wonder, if his dad was that strong, how powerful is his grandma? Grandpa Chin admits his father was a legend, but he was nothing compared to her. She is the peerless war soul, one of the strongest beings in centuries. Li Xianyu struggles to connect that title with the snack-obsessed girl he lives with. The old man explains the alliance has kept her sealed, terrified of her power. So Li Xianyu asks a very logical, if cold-hearted question. What if he just got rid of her? Grandpa Chin immediately shuts that down, saying he has no idea what he's dealing with. He reveals that on his deathbed, his father entrusted the pearl to his master, but the sect leader, under pressure from the alliance, deemed it too dangerous for the boy. Meanwhile, a new power rose, the Baoze group replacing the old guard, and so the sect leader handed the spirit pearl over to them for safekeeping. With the history lesson over, Grandpa Chin gets down to business. He offers Li Xianyu a contract to join Baoze and receive their protection. He tempts him with answers about his father's death, warning him that his life is now in danger. But Li Xianyu is still bitter, complaining she's just a freeloader. Grandpa Chin gives him a cold dose of reality. His father's enemies are now his. Li Xianyu decides to consult his great-grandma before making any decisions. Li Xianyu returns home, the weight of the day on his shoulders. He finds the Grand Matriarch glued to her computer screen. He tries to explain how his life has been turned upside down since she arrived. She tells him not to blame her, her eyes never leaving the game. She explains that the supernatural world was always there, just hidden from his view. Li Xianyu is left speechless by her casual dismissal. He stares, trying to process the new reality, until his train of thought is completely derailed by the cool gun in her game. But she quickly changes the subject back to her top priority. A question that makes Li Xianyu realize he forgot the one thing that matters. The peerless war soul throws a tantrum, and he wonders if this is really the being that demons fear. He reflects on his father's inheritance. A new world, 1,000,000 yen, and a very troublesome ancestor. The two head out to get food with a quick stop planned at the bank. They arrive at the ATM. She's fascinated by the machine, offering to smash it open for him. He inserts the card, ready to withdraw his father's gift. But the balance is less than half of what it should be. He stares in disbelief, his smile frozen on his face. A silent scream of financial agony fills the air. He immediately calls Grandpa Chin, demanding to know what happened to his money. He accuses the old man of taking it, who seems genuinely confused. Grandpa Chin calmly suggests he check the account statement. Li Xianyu wonders if there was some kind of massive transfer fee. But the statement reveals a long, horrifying list of recent payments. He turns slowly to face the only other person with access to the card. He asks her directly if she spent the money. She plays innocent, but her nervous smile says it all. An argument erupts with her pulling rank as his great-grandmother. He demands to know what she spent over $500,000 on. Her answer, in-game purchases. She proudly lists off her digital loot, insisting it was a bargain for becoming stronger. Li Xianyu demands to know how an ancient spirit even learned about microtransactions. She calls him stingy, bragging about her lavish spending habits from a century ago. The argument quickly devolves into a flurry of insults. He finally snaps, screaming that she blew his inheritance and has to leave. Enraged, she declares she'll just pay it back by attempting to punch the money out of the ATM, a plan that fails spectacularly, much to Li Xianyu's amusement. Humiliated, she runs off, declaring she's going back into the spirit pearl. He sits alone, stewing over his selfish, tantrum-throwing ancestor, until he remembers that he did, in fact, tell her to use the money freely. Realizing his mistake, he sprints off to apologize. He finds her at a restaurant, already enjoying an expensive meal on his dime. She threatens to just wait for the next, less stingy generation to come along. But she puts the thought aside, deciding to enjoy the fine dining first. And to be fair, the food does look incredible. He cheekily asks when she plans on getting sealed away again. She quickly backpedals, saying she'll get around to it. Eventually. Seeing his opportunity, Li Xianyu suggests they make some ground rules instead. Rule number 1, they're poor, so her daily spending limit is now 100 yen, a rule she immediately rejects, threatening to leave again. She calls him an unlovable descendant for his sudden frugality, and so begins the great negotiation for her allowance. He calls Grandpa Chin to apologize for the false accusation about the money. The old man then asks again if he's considered joining Baoze. Grandpa Chin tells him to take his time with the important decision. She promises to be his backing, but he asks a difficult question. If she's so strong, why couldn't she protect his father? A wave of sorrow washes over the ancient spirit, leaving her speechless. 3 days pass in a heavy silence, but some things never change, as she complains about the quality of their food. Li Xianyu decides to fight fire with fire, stealing from her bowl. She snatches it back, but he reminds her who spent all the money. She gives a tearful apology, blaming her outdated sense of currency. Her solution to their money problems is surprisingly direct. She casually explains her foolproof plan for bank robbery. Li Xianyu is not entirely convinced by her criminal expertise. She admits this is how his father ended up on the Alliance's wanted list. He grabs her, suddenly very concerned about their family history. He promises to support her, even if it means selling his already drained organs. He then changes the subject, complaining about his failed qi practice. She bluntly tells him his heavenly gates are closed due to his lack of talent. When he asks how modern cultivators deal with smog, she has no idea. His financial woes are immediately forgotten at the sight of expensive fruit. He laments the high cost of maintaining an ancient spirit. Just then, they run into a familiar face, Grandpa Chin. The old man asks again about the job offer, and Li Xianyu's first question is about the salary. Grandpa Chin assures him the pay is more than generous. And just like that, our boy is sold. A few days later, they arrive at the towering Baoze headquarters. The Grand Matriarch is already hungry again, much to his dismay. They're introduced to the head of law enforcement, codenamed Thunder War Pope. The man greets her respectfully, noting she hasn't aged a day in 20 years. Li Xianyu offers a slightly less graceful greeting. He explains that he knows her, though she likely wouldn't remember him. He's offered a choice, law enforcement or a desk job. He picks the desk job, an answer that clearly disappoints the Thunder War Pope. He clarifies that the company wants him in the field to make use of his powerful companion. Li Xianyu insists he's too weak, so Grandpa Chin suggests a compromise. He asks how to awaken his power, but there's no set method. Grandpa Chin awakened from a heart attack and his father was pushed out a window. Family traditions are weird. The group sits in a tense silence, the job offer hanging in the air. She explains his father's qi talent was as bad as his, but his bloodline was incredibly strong. Li Xianyu despairs, realizing he's already 20 with no signs of awakening. But his great-grandma's priorities are elsewhere, eyeing the expensive food. He whispers that they're completely broke and can't afford anything. The Thunder War Pope chimes in with a simple solution. The food is free for employees, an offer that brings a sparkle to both of their eyes. They eagerly grab the menu, ready to make up for lost meals. The two of them eat like they've been starved for weeks. Li Xianyu explains they've been living on plain rice since the inheritance ran out. Grandpa Qin is shocked to hear how dire their situation is. Li Xianyu throws his great-grandma under the bus, calling her a burden, a comment that earns him a swift smack with a pair of chopsticks. The Pope lays out the salary for a part-time office worker, 40,000 yen a month. Li Xianyu immediately complains that it won't even cover her snack budget. But he quickly backpedals, insisting the pay is fine since he already agreed. Then the Pope mentions the law enforcement salary, a cool 1,000,000 yen a month. Li Xianyu is left completely speechless, his food forgotten. The Pope explains the danger of the job justifies the high pay. And just like that, Li Xianyu is filled with a newfound sense of civic duty. The others can only stare at his sudden, passionate change of heart. Their meeting is interrupted by a sudden fiery commotion. A man is on a rampage, setting the office ablaze. He breathes fire, warning everyone to stay away. Grandpa Qin and a woman with green-tinged hair leap into action. The woman's expression is cold and focused. She flicks a small disc-like object with incredible speed. It strikes the man directly in the face, stopping him in his tracks. He collapses to the floor, dazed and defeated. The Pope calmly notes the perfect timing as another employee arrives to drag the man away. The woman introduces herself as Sanwu, a member of the law enforcement department. The Pope officially introduces Li Xianyu as the new hire, placing him under her supervision. Li Xianyu asks about the man who was breathing fire. Grandpa Qin explains his power went berserk due to past trauma. He then reveals that all ancient demon descendants have inherited supernatural abilities. The Pope demonstrates his own lightning power, while Grandpa Qin has telekinesis. Sanwu explains her ability is a sure hit throw, which is exactly what it sounds like. Li Xianyu eagerly asks his great-grandma about their family's special power. She explains its enhancement, the ability to strengthen anything with a physical form. She adds that the Li family were legendary weapon forgers in the demon world. Li Xianyu simplifies this to blacksmiths, earning him a swift smack on the head. He nervously introduces himself to his new senior officer. She greets him with a brutally honest observation about his vitality. Li Xianyu is left completely mortified and at a loss for words. Grandpa Qin tries to smooth things over, explaining she's a bit eccentric. He drags Li Xianyu away, who complains he can't handle another crazy woman in his life. A flashback reveals Sanwu was once a battle machine for a heretical cult. After Baoze destroyed the organization, she was taken in by its leader. He gave her a name as she believed machines didn't need one. Though she's become more human, she still struggles with social interaction. She identifies people by their most prominent features, hence the creative nicknames. She's also known for bluntly exposing people's deepest insecurities. Apparently, only the most patient souls can get along with her. Grandpa Qin warns Li Xianyu to stick close to her on missions, as she's used to working alone. With the introductions over, they head to HR to make it official. Grandpa Qin suggests Sanwu stay at his apartment as a bodyguard. Li Xianyu questions if he's really a target, but the old man insists it's just a precaution. Back at home, he offers his new roommate his bedroom. He's surprised by her quiet and obedient demeanor. Just then, he gets a welcome message from the company. He's also introduced to the company's internal messaging app, which he quickly gets the hang of. He learns about the company's point system, an internal currency for rare items, a currency that can also be exchanged for a shocking amount of cash. But Li Xianyu tries to play it cool, saying he'd rather earn his own way, a noble sentiment that lasts until he remembers who he lives with. And so Sanwu makes a very generous offer, an offer that leaves the entire room stunned. Both he and his great-grandma can't believe the number on the card. Sanwu calmly explains that she has no use for the money. The Grand Matriarch's attitude changes in an instant. Suddenly, they're best friends. Li Xianyu is quick to agree, calling them all comrades now. Sanwu seems to enjoy the simple gesture, and Li Xianyu thanks every deity he can think of for this sudden windfall. She clarifies it's just 3 years of her salary, which she never uses. A thought crosses his mind. She has no one to spend her money on. He tries to give the card back, offering a more reasonable compromise. Sanwu simply agrees to the new arrangement. The Grand Matriarch, however, has other plans for the new budget. Just then, a notification pops up on his phone. His application to the company group chat has been approved. The Pope introduces him to the rest of the team. Li Xianyu carefully types out a polite introduction under the incredibly fitting username Vitality Banana. He sends the message feeling like a true professional, but his warm greeting is met with a cold, awkward silence, until the chat explodes with a very strange hazing ritual. The Pope steps in, hinting at his important identity. The others are confused, asking what's so special about the new guy, and the data manager posts his file revealing a perfectly ordinary college student. The data manager sarcastically confirms how terrifying he is. Li Xianyu can only watch, a little amused by the chaos. Until someone posts a very, very compromising photo, he stares in horror, demanding to know where they got it, and more importantly, when it was even taken. His coworkers have already turned his moment of terror into a series of memes. He suddenly understands Sanwoo's very blunt observation about his vitality. His professional life is over before it's even begun. The Pope sends a private message, telling him to keep his identity secret for now. He explains they'll reveal his lineage once he's awakened and can defend himself. The Pope insists the hazing is just their way of being friendly. Sure it is. Back in the main chat, the conversation continues. The medical vice head offers to treat his weak kidneys, while others gossip about his encounter with the fox demon. The Pope watches, annoyed that the doctor is trying to scam the new guy. He messages the doctor privately, telling him the kid's condition is incurable. He then reveals Li Xianyu's true identity, and the doctor realizes the problem is hereditary. Unaware of the back-channel chat, Li Xianyu eagerly accepts the offer for treatment, only to see the doctor suddenly delete all of his messages, leaving our boy completely and utterly confused. The doctor quickly bows out, while another member kindly offers to lend him the points. Li Xianyu is left wondering what just happened, but he's grateful for the kind offer, imagining what his new senior might be like. He reflects on his difficult road ahead, and the fact that he now lives with two beautiful women. Things could be worse. He starts to get a feel for his new co-workers. He learns about their various and sometimes very specific hobbies, and he gets a quick rundown of the department's other key players. He's slowly getting used to his new life as a delivery arrives. Sanwoo accepts the packages while he serves breakfast to a very eager Grand Matriarch. He asks about the delivery, and Sanwoo explains only a gas mask is for her. A notification suddenly appears on his phone. It's his first official mission, a supernatural incident at Juhua Mansion. He opens the file, realizing the location is just around the corner. The victim is a restaurant owner, haunted by nightmares and plagued by mysterious bruises. Li Xianyu recognizes him instantly. It's the ramen shop owner from before. He discusses the case with Sanwoo, confused by the details in the report. But his new senior officer simply dismisses the spirit as small fry. He realizes that for her, a simple vengeful spirit is beneath her notice. So he turns to his other roommate, hoping for a more helpful answer. The Grand Matriarch explains that spirits often attack people in their sleep. She adds that their power is fueled by the resentment they held in life. And with that, her very insightful lecture concludes. Li Xianyu is left completely unimpressed. He complains that neither of them has given him any useful advice. He's a total amateur, stuck with two max-level players who can't be bothered to help. Just then, another delivery arrives at their door. It's a package from Baoze, containing a very convincing fake ID. Sanwoo confirms its authenticity, and Li Xianyu prepares for his first day on the job. He emerges dressed in his finest ghost-hunting attire, complete with garlic. He insists that as a normal human, he needs all the protection he can get. The Grand Matriarch yawns, ready to take a nap and sit this one out. But Sanwoo calls her out, correctly guessing that she's actually scared. The ancient spirit denies it, but her flustered reaction gives her away. Li Xianyu panics, wondering why the peerless war soul would be afraid. She angrily explains that thanks to his weakness, she's not strong enough to fight. He then asks a very important question. Can she even die? She proudly declares that she's immortal and would just return to the pearl. Li Xianyu sees his opportunity, deciding she'll make a perfect human shield. He drags the protesting spirit out the door, leaving Sanwoo to lock up. They arrive at the Chinese restaurant, the scene of the haunting. Li Xianyu flashes his new ID, introducing himself as a doctor from the local psychiatric hospital. The restaurant owner's wife welcomes them inside. She seems impressed that doctors still make house calls. Inside, they find a young boy completely absorbed in a VR game. The Grand Matriarch is immediately distracted, noting the expensive headset. The wife leads them to the bedroom, explaining her husband hasn't left for days. She calls to him from the doorway, announcing the doctor's arrival. Li Xianyu begins his examination, asking when the nightmares started. He presses further, asking if anything unusual happened around that time. The man connects the timing to his mother's death exactly 7 days ago. A sudden, horrifying realization seems to dawn on him, but his wife quickly scolds him for his superstitious thoughts. Li Xianyu, however, seems to be taking the possession theory very seriously. He changes tactics, asking about their family relationships. The couple falls into an uncomfortable silence. Li Xianyu asks the women to step outside so he can speak with the patient alone. He gives his great-grandma a subtle order to search the house for spirits. Now alone with the man, he asks for the details of the dream. The man's face twists in fear as he describes being chased by a man trying to break his legs. In his nightmare, a shadowy figure relentlessly pursues him, eventually grabbing his legs. He explains that when he wakes up, he finds real bruises where the spirit grabbed him. He pulls back the covers, revealing the dark marks on his ankle. Li Xianyu stares, shocked by the physical evidence. The man pleads with him, desperate to be believed. Li Xianyu's eyes are wide with a mix of shock and intrigue. The man begs him to accept the truth. This is the work of a ghost. Li Xianyu considers the clues, wondering why the dream figure is a man if the spirit is his mother. He wonders if the ghost could be the man's father instead. He asks if the man remembers the figure's face, or if anything else happened. But the man can't recall any other details from the terrifying dream. He asks if the man's father is still alive, but learns he's also passed away. Li Xianyu connects the dots. The mother's spirit causes the cold while the father haunts the dreams. A dark thought crosses his mind, wondering if a sister was involved in this family tragedy. He asks the man directly, who confirms he has a younger sister. Believing he's solved it, Li Xianyu concludes it's a simple haunting, not an ancient demon. But his investigation is interrupted by the sight of his great-grandma, who's completely abandoned her duties to play video games with the son. He turns to Sanwu, asking if her search for spirits was any more successful. She gives him a simple, unhelpful shake of the head. Frustrated, he grabs her shoulders, demanding a clearer answer. But she suddenly gets an idea, a spark of inspiration in her eyes. Li Xianyu is understandably skeptical. She presents a golden coin, a blessed national emblem said to seal demons. She explains it was a gift, and that it will grow hot in the presence of a spirit. He takes the coin, concentrating, trying to feel its supposed power. He then proceeds to sweep the entire apartment, room by room. But the coin in his hand remains completely cool. He sighs, admitting that he feels absolutely nothing. With no evidence, he gives the wife a fake diagnosis about stress and overwork. As they leave, the Grand Matriarch begs to play just one more level. Priorities. Outside, Li Xianyu is still troubled, feeling like he's missed a crucial piece of the puzzle. The mission reward is 10 points, which translates to a cool 100,000 yen. The Grand Matriarch's eyes light up at the mention of cash. She immediately demands he buy her the expensive VR headset, an idea that Li Xianyu immediately shuts down. She clings to him, whining that he can just use his next paycheck. When that fails, she demands sushi, kicking his leg in a fit of pique. Her next brilliant idea is to point at Sanwu, suggesting they use her money. Sanwu bluntly calls them both shameless. The Grand Matriarch tries to defend her honor, while Li Xianyu attempts to de-escalate the situation. Sanwu calmly states that money doesn't matter to her, so Li Xianyu caves, agreeing to pay for a cheap meal. The three of them enjoy some surprisingly decent fried chicken, and they're once again joined by a very hopeful stray. The Grand Matriarch recognizes the greedy mutt from before, but she still offers it a small piece of her meal, just as a shopkeeper rushes out, angrily shooing it away. Li Xianyu tries to tell the woman to take it easy, but she complains that the dog is a constant nuisance. He tries to flatter her, but Sanwu calls out his hypocrisy. With their meal finished, the group heads back outside. The Grand Matriarch confirms she couldn't sense any spirits. Li Xianyu notes the dog is a popular breed, but she's not impressed. She launches into a rant, blaming its greed on Antarctic nations. He reminds her that the empire fell over a century ago, but her national pride is unwavering, and she asks if he plans to keep it. A question that gets a very suspicious smile in return. She explodes in a fit of rage, calling them violent barbarians. Li Xianyu is taken aback, asking if she's having flashbacks. The ancient spirit literally breathes fire as Sanwu looks on, confused. But Sanwu calmly points, telling them to look behind them. Li Xianyu's eyes begin to well up with tears. He turns, a shadowy figure looming just over his shoulder. She repeats her warning, urging him to see what's there. His eyes widen in pure, unadulterated terror. He grits his teeth, a wave of panic washing over him. He grabs them both, deciding Sanwu is the more reliable bodyguard. He hides behind his senior, wondering if it's a vengeful spirit. A ghostly figure appears, asking if they can see him, But Li Xianyu immediately realizes this is no ordinary ghost. The Grand Matriarch explains that not all spirits are vengeful. The ghost confirms he holds no grudges, despite his tragic death. So Li Xianyu strikes a pose, declaring himself a professional exorcist. He dramatically orders the spirit to pass on immediately. The dog just barks, completely unimpressed by the performance. The ghost calmly asks if they can just talk like normal people. Li Xianyu, a bit flustered, agrees to the very reasonable request. The spirit introduces himself as Hada Shun, the one possessing the shop owner. The Grand Matriarch asks why he'd haunt the man if he wasn't resentful. He explains the owner broke the dog's leg and he was just giving him nightmares. But the owner's protective mother's spirit interfered with his plan. Li Xianyu realizes this is the man from the owner's dreams. The spirit then introduces the dog, Cream, as his former pet. A flashback begins, showing how he first met the stray puppy under a bridge. At the time, he was overworked at a soul-crushing job and had just been dumped by his girlfriend. A real low point. He saw a kindred spirit in the lonely little dog. He started feeding her regularly, forming a quiet bond. But work got busy and he stopped visiting their spot. When he finally returned, he found Cream weak and frail. The dog's eyes were full of trust, as if she'd been waiting just for him. He reflects that she might have died if he hadn't come back then. Li Xianyu listens intently to the heartbreaking story. The dog ignored the food he offered, clinging to his leg instead. Overcome with guilt, he decided to finally take her home. Li Xianyu asks why he's her former owner. The spirit explains that Cream caused a fight with his new girlfriend. The girlfriend's dog bullied Cream, and she demanded he get rid of her. The final straw came when Cream bit her expensive handbag. He admits he had no choice when she gave him an ultimatum, her or the dog. The Grand Matriarch scolds the ghost for his poor life choices. She then offers to let him speak with his dog one last time, but she explains she'll need Li Xianyu's consent to do it. He agrees, only for her to demand another essence payment. The ghost offers his own energy, but Li Xianyu tries to back out of the deal. Sanwu steps in, stopping the ghost from interfering. The Grand Matriarch clarifies she only drains her own descendants. How exclusive. She opens her mouth, ready for the energy transfer. Li Xianyu panics as she begins the process without his final say. A brilliant light envelops her as she channels his power. The spirit can finally speak to Cream, apologizing for leaving her behind. He recalls seeing his parents grieving after his death. He watched his girlfriend and co-workers quickly forget him. He realized that only his family and his dog truly cared, and so he returned as a spirit to find his loyal companion. He holds her close, asking for forgiveness for his selfishness. He says a final heartbreaking goodbye, setting her free. The dog lets out a mournful howl as her owner fades away. Li Xianyu watches with a sad smile as the mission concludes. He checks his phone, confirming he's earned his first 10 points. The Grand Matriarch immediately demands her VR headset, but he refuses. He daydreams about the cool gear he'll get as a full-time employee. Back at home, he reflects on his current situation. His great-grandma is a powerhouse, but useless without his energy. And Sanwu is strong, but has no skills for dealing with spirits, while he himself is basically just a professional screamer. He messages the Pope, asking for a new partner, but gets brutally shut down. A response that leaves our boy in a puddle of his own tears. The Pope reveals the original plan was to raise his future child to be her host. Li Xianyu then pivots from existential dread to asking for a salary advance. Priorities. He waits impatiently for a reply from his boss. He asks for a salary advance to buy his great-grandma a gaming headset. But his request is met with a deafening and very cheap silence. Meanwhile, late at night at Baoze headquarters, the Thunder War Pope heads to a secure area. He passes through multiple layers of security, including a retinal scan and a final keycard swipe. This place is more secure than a bank vault. He descends into a hidden facility deep beneath the building. He approaches a heavily reinforced cell door. He enters the code, unlocking the final barrier. The complex locks retract with a heavy thud. Inside, he finds the 2 captured demons from the apartment. The Pope enters their cell, and the man tells his sister to stay calm. He pulls up a chair, ready for an interrogation. He flicks open a lighter and lights a cigar, the picture of calm authority. He tells them murder is a death sentence, but the man begins to tell his story. He explains they were injured and desperate, but the Pope isn't buying his excuses. The man admits that what he did was wrong. He reveals they were once simple animals who gained intelligence from a treasure, but his sister's carelessness led to them being hunted. The Pope asks about the treasure that started it all. The man mentions a name, the Pantheon Temple. A name that clearly shocks the seasoned officer. The Pope can't believe what he's hearing. The demon then brings up a major incident from 80 years ago. It all started with a single rebel from the Mystic Gate. a man known as Demon Path Ghost Dust. A flashback begins, explaining the man was once a disciple who fought in a great war. His power grew exponentially during the war, making him a master of the extreme. But with great power came great ambition, and he conspired to seize control. The Alliance sent 6,000 elite members to stop him, and failed spectacularly. The Pope realizes the demon knows the source of the man's incredible power. He repeats the name, his voice heavy with disbelief, the Pantheon Temple. The demon explains that Ghost Dust found the temple by chance, but all clues to its location died with him. But then he drops a bombshell. They have the key to the lost temple. The Thunder War Pope's eyes widen, the revelation hitting him like a physical blow. Later, he reports this new development to a superior over a secure video call. He confirms the key is genuine, it's spiritual power proof that the temple will soon open. The man on the screen scoffs, surprised such a treasure was held by minor demons. The Pope explains he found a link between Ghost Dust and a fox demon, and the key vanished after his death. His superior notes the temple is opening more frequently, wondering if old enemies will return. The Pope admits he cannot say for sure. The man on the screen clarifies that he wasn't asking him. Ouch. The Pope is left confused, wondering who else the man could be talking to. He's ordered to run a background check on the two demons, suspecting a connection. The Pope then brings up Li Xianyu's father, who also entered the temple 20 years ago. But his superior dismisses the idea, saying the son likely knows nothing. The Pope argues that the war soul must know something about what happened inside. He worries for Li Xianyu's safety, questioning if their protection is enough. The man is unconcerned, stating the boy has little value until he awakens his power. For now, they can only place their hopes on the war soul and the kid's luck. The key sits on the desk, a glowing harbinger of things to come. Meanwhile, back on campus, life goes on. Li Xianyu gets a brilliant idea, asking his two roommates to pose as his girlfriends. Sanwu immediately shuts him down with a swift flick to the forehead, but they go along with it, turning heads as they walk through the school halls. Li Xianyu soaks in the attention, a smug grin plastered on his face. He enters the lecture hall, ready to make his grand entrance. He boasts to his friend that it's all thanks to his natural charm, a claim his friend finds very, very hard to believe. The professor continues the lecture, completely unaware of the drama. But Li Xianyu's smug expression suddenly vanishes. He hears a baby crying, and his great-grandma tells him to focus. He closes his eyes, trying to concentrate his energy, and his spiritual sight kicks in with a painful jolt. He now sees a dark aura surrounding a student in the front row. A ghostly infant clings to her back, a horrifying passenger. The spirit turns, its eyes glowing with a malevolent energy. Li Xianyu is paralyzed by a wave of pure terror. He can't believe what he's seeing. The Grand Matriarch reminds him of the first rule, never make eye contact. She explains it's a vengeful spirit, but it's too attached to its mother to notice him. Li Xianyu laments his terrible luck now seeing ghosts in class. He tries to pull himself together, the lecture forgotten. He asks his friend about the girl, Murata Saki. His friend shares a rumor that she was on leave for personal reasons. He then teases Li Xianyu for being greedy, who insists he's a one-woman, or two-women, man. Later that night, the trio settles in for a movie, a choice that Li Xianyu immediately regrets. He hides behind his great-grandma, who scolds him for blocking the TV. She calls him pathetic, comparing him unfavorably to his father. She gives him a lecture on how true strength comes from the heart, a lesson he seems less than thrilled to learn. He then suggests to Sanwu that they go exorcise the baby spirit. He insists it's just his strong work ethic kicking in, but he's really just dreaming of the points he could earn. Sanwu, however, gives him a simple, firm no. She explains that true exorcism is about resolving resentment, not just destroying spirits. She explains that baby spirits are driven by instinct, not malice. Li Xianyu realizes he missed a golden opportunity for some easy points. Just then, his phone buzzes with a new notification. He picks it up, wondering why the group chat is suddenly so lively. The chat reveals a crisis. 10 agents have been absorbed into someone's mental world. The team argues, blaming an absent owner for the unstable situation. And of course, his embarrassing photo makes another appearance in the chat. He asks Sanwu about a particularly aggressive member, the Fire God. She confirms he's an S-rank employee, just like her. Li Xianyu tries messaging the medical vice head again, only to be brutally shut down. The Pope sends him a private message, ordering him to bring Sanwu in to help. He relays the new mission to his senior, who calmly agrees. The night's horror movie marathon continues to haunt him. He screams, hiding behind his great-grandma for protection. He then tries to drag Sanwu away for some courage building. an idea that is met with a very unimpressed click of the tongue. The next day, they arrive back at the university, but Lee Xianyu is stunned by some terrible news. Muratasaki is dead. Students whisper about a serial killer targeting their campus. The rumor is that the killer only goes after attractive people. A couple of students joke that they're safe. At least they're self-aware. Lee Xianyu confronts his roommates, demanding to know what happened. The Grand Matriarch simply says that things don't always go as planned. He grits his teeth, filled with regret and anger, a feeling that's immediately replaced by the horror of a pop quiz. He asks his friend for details, who confirms it was ruled a suicide. She was found in the dorm bathroom with cut wrists. Lee Xianyu doesn't buy it, believing there's more to the story. He asks his friend to gather information from the other girls in the dorm. A new plan forms. He'll report this as a spirit incident and get double the points. He daydreams of the easy money he'll make from this case. He quickly sends a report to Baoze, officially taking the mission. Back in class, the professor gives a somber speech before starting the pop quiz. But Lee Xianyu can't focus on the test, his mind elsewhere. A tear of pure terror rolls down his cheek. He feels a cold, tiny hand grab his shoulder. The baby spirit is now clinging to him, its eyes glowing. Its gaze is filled with an unholy rage. He panics, remembering the blessed coin Sanwoo gave him. He frantically searches his bag for the protective charm, but he can't find it anywhere. He's completely defenseless. The spirit pries his mouth open, trying to force its way inside. He struggles against the tiny but powerful ghost. He watches in horror as it shoves itself down his throat. A brilliant flash of light consumes his vision. He's suddenly seeing a memory from inside the girls' dorm. He sees Muratasaki, alive and talking with her friends. It's a vision of the past, a ghostly replay of her final hours. Her friends ask about the severance money she's getting. The other girls are impressed by the massive payout. But Saki seems troubled, knowing her future is now uncertain. Her friends suggest they play a game to ask about her future. A game they decide to play in the dorm's creepy bathroom. They gather in the dark, recalling the story of a suicide that happened there. One of them wonders if this ritual is what angered the baby spirit. Saki looks on, a little nervous about the whole thing. The friend explains the rules for contacting the spirit world. The three of them share a moment of tense silence. They place their hands on the planchette, beginning the seance. She warns them of a critical taboo. Never ask if the spirit is hungry. The girls chant in the dark, calling out to a spirit. Saki's friend leads the ritual, her eyes closed in concentration. Their hands tremble on the planchette as they repeat the words. Suddenly, the wooden marker begins to move on its own. The girls pull their hands back in a panic. They can't believe the silly game actually worked. They decide to stop, but the baby spirit seems disappointed. It looks on, annoyed that the summoning was cut short. But another, far more terrifying spirit appears behind them. Its face is a horrifying void dripping with blood. Back in the present, Lee Shanyu's eyes snap open in shock. He leaps from his desk, the vision still fresh in his mind. He realizes the baby spirit wasn't the one who killed her. He shouts that the seance spirit was the true culprit. He makes a quick excuse to the professor and bolts from the room. He calls his great-grandma, panicking about this new, powerful enemy. He sprints across campus, desperate to find her. The library is quiet, a stark contrast to his racing thoughts. He bursts in, shouting that he's discovered the real cause of death. The Grand Matriarch explains the game can only summon nearby spirits. She tells him to investigate the spirit's origins first. He's confused by her terminology, but she clarifies it's an ancient summoning technique. Just then, he gets a notification. Baoze has officially issued a mission for the case. The Grand Matriarch, now with ice cream, declares they have to take it for the points. An ancient spirit's gotta grind. Lee Xianyu feels a bit more confident with his reliable senior, Sanwoo, by his side. He asks them what their next move should be. His great-grandma offers some sage advice. Know your enemy and gather intel. She spots a girl from the dorm and tells Lee Xianyu to use his looks to get information. He approaches the student, laying on the charm as he asks about the incident. She confirms the rumors about the haunted toilet where Muratasaki died. The student seems to consider his question for a moment. She then shares another rumor about a bloody hand that asks for paper. She gives him a strange, unsettling smile before heading off to class. Lee Xianyu is left a little confused by her sudden change in demeanor. He smoothly turns down her offer to study, feeling like the king of the campus. Back with his team, he explains his theory that the other girls are now targets. He lays out his brilliant plan: infiltrate the girls' dorm and wait for the spirit. He proudly asks them what they think of his genius idea. But there's one small problem. He can't go into the girls' dorm himself. He explains that with his weak constitution, he'd be useless anyway. Such a hero. He's already dreaming of the points he'll earn while the pros do all the work. The Grand Matriarch volunteers, but only if he pays her in life essence. She reminds him that his kidneys are still weak, and this could be dangerous. Lee Xianyu finally realizes the true nature of his brilliant plan. Both women give him an enthusiastic thumbs up, sealing his fate as the decoy. That night, they arrive at the dorm, and Sanwoo gives him his instructions. As his roommates relax, he pleads his case, reminding them he's the last of his line. The Grand Matriarch offers a very unconvincing word of encouragement. Lee Xianyu lets out a sigh of pure, unadulterated dread. He takes a deep breath and approaches the dark, imposing building. He says a silent prayer as shadowy tendrils creep from the doorway. The dark energy seems to pour out and he starts to sweat. But before he can back out, the Grand Matriarch strikes a pose and promptly kicks his backpack into the building to get him moving. He finds himself in a dark, silent hallway. He creeps toward the bathroom, his hand trembling as he reaches for the wall. He peeks into the darkness of the haunted stall. He tries to calm himself, but his inner monologue is just pure screaming. Outside, Sanwoo asks if she's worried, and the Grand Matriarch admits she is. She explains he must have the resolve of an inheritor, despite being the laziest one she's ever seen. She recalls that even the strongest inheritor met a tragic end. Inside, Lee Xianyu sits in the dark, completely bewildered. He waits in the silence of the haunted stall. The air grows heavy with a creeping dread. He feels a presence approaching, his eyes wide with fear. A sudden sound makes him jump, pointing into the darkness. Something wet begins to seep across the tiled floor. He realizes with horror that it's heading straight for him. Outside, 2 other students recall how Saki was found that morning. Lee Xianyu checks his phone, waiting for the rumored midnight appearance. The 2 girls argue, one too scared to be left alone in the bathroom. Suddenly, a trail of blood appears on the floor as one goes quiet. Lee Xianyu's eyes widen in absolute panic. But it's just a prank, and the girl laughs at his terrified reaction. He's completely unamused by their little joke. With only 6 minutes left, he needs a way to get them to leave. He gets a brilliant idea and starts making his own spooky noises. The girls call him out, but he insists it wasn't him this time. A real heavy banging sound echoes from the walls, and he says a quick prayer. He decides to wait a bit longer, ready to write the mission off as a bust. To pass the time, he starts a live stream in the company chat, much to his seniors' amusement. He's immediately disgusted by their very unprofessional responses. He asks for advice, and a senior named War Princess offers a helpful tip. He's immediately impressed by his new helpful senior. The chat then devolves into gossip, and Lee Xianyu tries to make a joke, which gets him immediately muted by the admin. He instantly regrets it. Just then, he feels the temperature in the room plummet. He realizes the spirit is here, asking its signature question. A bloody, gnarled hand reaches out from the stall beside him. It snakes over the wall right above his phone, demanding paper. Lee Xianyu panics, shouting that he doesn't have any paper. But he remembers the blessed coin and offers it instead. The holy object burns the spirit's hand, engulfing it in flames. The full ghost emerges from the stall and Lee Xianyu screams for help. It grabs him by the arm, its grip like icy steel. The spirit threatens to take his life, and he desperately calls for Sanwoo. Outside, Sanwoo hears his cries and rushes toward the door. But the Grand Matriarch stops her, insisting he must face this alone. She tells her to wait just 30 more seconds, a very specific amount of time for a life-or-death situation. Inside, Lee Xianyu is on the floor, wondering where his backup is. The spirit looms over him, ready to claim its prize. But a sudden impact strikes the ghost directly in the head. It's the baby spirit who just flew in to save the day. Lee Xianyu is stunned, realizing the tiny ghost just protected him. The larger spirit swats the baby away like a bothersome fly. Lee Xianyu can only watch in horror, his last hope gone. He looks down, spotting the golden coin on the floor. An idea forms, and he grabs the baby spirit, ready for a final gambit. He shoves the coin into the larger spirit's mouth, a desperate act of exorcism. The blessed object burns the spirit from the inside out. He holds on, enduring the violent spectral backlash. The spirit's face begins to melt away into smoke. He collapses to the floor, the mission finally over. He realizes the baby spirit was trying to avenge its mother. He tells the fading ghost that its mother was never worth protecting. The tiny spirit begins to cry, its form flickering. Its spectral tears fall to the floor and evaporate. Lee Xianyu wishes it a better fate in the next life. Just then, Sanwoo finally bursts through the door. He immediately starts crying, asking why she took so long to save him. But Sanwoo grabs him, saying there's no time to talk because everyone's awake. The dorm hallway fills with curious students, wondering about the man in their bathroom. Lee Xianyu panics, suggesting they make a run for it and jump out the window. He quickly reconsiders after seeing the drop, deciding to just push their way through. He pulls his shirt over his head as a makeshift disguise. The girls, armed with mops, are relieved he's human, but now they're just gossiping. He tries to shoo them away, telling them to mind their own business. But they swarm him, trying to pull off his mask while snapping photos. His face is revealed, and he's now the star of a dozen phone cameras. The next day, the sun shines brightly, but a dark cloud of despair hangs over Lee Xianyu's head. His roommates argue over whose fault it was for not protecting him. A caption helpfully points out that while his body is fine, his dignity is not. He tries to tell them it wasn't entirely Sanwoo's fault. He collapses to the ground, wondering what his campus reputation will be now. Other students recognize him, and the rumors are already spreading like wildfire. Back at their apartment, the Grand Matriarch tries to comfort him. She tells him to ignore the gossip as he was just doing his job. But Lee Xianyu is inconsolable, declaring he wants to drop out of school. He then amends his statement, saying he wants to change guardians instead. He blames the Grand Matriarch, but Sanwoo points out she was the one who held her back. The two of them stare each other down, the blame game in full swing. Lee Xianyu sits between them, completely defeated by the chaos. He shouts that he wants a new great-grandma, but she reminds him it's not that simple. He grabs her, accusing her of being a trap his father left to ruin his life. She's had enough of his whining and sends him flying with a single kick. She reminds him that none of his ancestors would dare speak to her that way. She lectures him about his lack of ambition, telling him to get stronger. She reveals that everyone is after what his father brought back from the Pantheon Temple. Lee Xianyu is left stunned and teary-eyed by the sudden, harsh reality check. Sanwoo tries to break the tension with a joke. Lee Xianyu recalls a difficult phone call with his adoptive father. He tries to explain the seriousness of the situation, but his father just scolds him for never visiting. The lecture ends with his father hanging up on him. He remembers asking about his sister, who's always traveling. Back in the present, he reflects on his family's absence. A sudden thought strikes him, and he turns to his great-grandma. He asks if his biological mother is still alive. He shows her a photo of his adoptive family, and she points out his real mother isn't in the picture. The two bicker about his adoptive mother's character. He asks again about his mother, but she changes the subject. He realizes his adoptive father is a complete mystery to him. She deflects again, turning the questions back on him. Nothing like a little deflection from a centuries-old spirit. He asks her to find out who gave him to his adoptive family. She then comments on his sister's queenly aura. He remembers how fortune-tellers all predicted a grand destiny for her. Just then, a new message appears on his phone. It's a news alert. The Pantheon Temple is about to reopen. He asks his great-grandma what his father brought back from that temple. She looks at him and reveals the answer. It was him.